There's an absurd rule in the US military academy. If you can defeat the boxing champion officer, you'll be promoted directly to Navy lieutenant. But none of the soldiers dared to step up and challenge, until a rookie took the initiative.
I'll do it.
You're not in his weight class, you.
I'll wear an extra t-shirt.
Though vastly outmatched by the officer in skill, Shaw's determination was anything but ordinary. Yet with a smooth combo from the officer, Shaw was slammed to the ground almost immediately. But he didn't give up. He gritted his teeth and kept going. For every 2 punches he threw, he'd leave an opening, and end up taking a heavy blow to the face. The crowd booed, and the officer mocked him openly. But Shaw refused to surrender. He kept fighting with everything he had, even though every punch he threw was deftly dodged by the officer, while the officer's fists landed squarely on him again and again. A straight punch from the officer shattered Shaw's naval dream. The referee called the fight, but Shaw suddenly charged and struck the officer from behind as he turned away. Luckily, others restrained him in time. No one understood why he was so desperate to prove himself. After that, Shaw fell into a slump, wanting to drop out and return home to work as a ship repairman. His roommate told him to adjust his mindset, but Shaw just forced a smile in response. Once the thought of giving up takes hold, it lingers in the mind. The Naval Academy was a place most could only dream of. Only 1,000 out of 50,000 applicants were accepted. Shaw had applied persistently for 3 years before finally getting in, but now he suddenly realized that perhaps ordinary people could never break free from the cage of fate. He told his father about leaving, but unexpectedly, his father didn't stop him, and even helped him complete the entry formality. Shaw couldn't understand. What kind of father would want his own son to fail?
You knew how bad I wanted to go to the academy. You never said anything. Why?
I didn't want you to go over there because I knew this would happen. That you'd be back here pissed off because you didn't make it.
The father's words hit Cheryl's heart precisely. If one lacks the courage to take a desperate risk, it would be better to muster some confidence instead. At the last moment of roll call, Shaw arrived in civilian clothes and joined the ranks. This time, he would win the championship and honor on his own terms. But Coach Kohler believed Shaw lacked talent. He had seen truly outstanding officers, and too many mediocre ones. So for those he deemed unworthy, he wouldn't let them graduate easily. Though Shaw was determined this time, Kohler conducted a surprise inspection in the early hours, while everyone was asleep, testing them on mandatory theoretical knowledge. As a transfer student, Shaw couldn't answer a single question, so the entire platoon was punished, each holding a bucket, while Shaw filled them with water. If anyone couldn't bear the weight, they'd face even harsher punishment. Resentment grew. Why should everyone pay for one person's mistake? Shaw's roommate, Harry, couldn't take it and requested a transfer. Only Lyle stood by him, but because Shaw had sucker punched the officer earlier, the coach barred him from the brigade boxing championship. With only 2 months until the tournament, Shaw knew that to get back in the ring, he'd have to work several times harder than anyone else. Unable to join official training, Shaw sneaked into the boxing gym at night to practice. There, he ran into the major. They decided to spar on the spot. The major noticed Shaw's punches lacked power, but saw he had unusual resilience. The major told him that most brigade boxing competitors were top amateur fighters in the country. To earn a spot, Shaw would have to push beyond his limits in this short time. The major offered to coach him personally, but Shaw refused. No one believed in him. No one thought he could become the first freshman ever to win the title. So Shaw turned down all help, determined to break people's prejudices on his own.
This ain't the shipyard, Heward. Can't just will yourself through this place.
The major was right, but Shaw's pride wouldn't allow him to ask for help. Fortunately, upperclassman Mary noticed his struggle and volunteered to train with him. She first used a tennis ball tied to a string to test Shaw's reflexes, then tied his hands and made him dodge attacks using only footwork to gain muscle and reach Kohler's weight class. Shaw forced himself to eat a large lump of butter with every meal, but the academy food alone wasn't enough to help him gain weight. His roommate Lyle brought out his stash of high-calorie bars to help Shaw bulk up to 185 pounds. In return, Shaw trained with him for the fitness test. Because of his weight, Lyle had never passed the required standards. If he failed the final test, he'd risk expulsion. Shaw told him, to succeed, you have to build unwavering belief. He meant those words for himself as well. Though he couldn't train with his classmates, Shaw carefully observed their habits and techniques, quietly figuring out how to beat them, and practicing alone late at night. There's no instant success, only daily perseverance. When sweat and effort become forward momentum, you're already on the path to success. And so, Shaw pushed through intense physical training by day, and honed his boxing skills by night. Eventually, his punches became too fast to handle easily. Basic training no longer pushed him enough, so Mary used a tennis ball machine to sharpen his dodging reflexes at high speed. After some time, Shaw improved rapidly. Not only did his fitness soar, but his boxing skills reached a new level. The day for classifying body weights has arrived. Kohler weighed in at a staggering 197 pounds. His explosive power made him nearly unbeatable in that class. The coach scanned the room and asked if anyone else wanted to enter. No one stepped forward until Shaw walked in under everyone's skeptical gazes, confident, and asked to be weighed. The coach dismissed him at first.
But anybody else?
Sir, said the brigades were open to all midshipmen.
But with the major's silent approval, he allowed Shaw to compete. On the scale, Shaw weighed exactly 185 pounds, qualifying him for Kohler's weight class. The boxing preliminaries began quickly. Every fighter threw punches with a will to win, though they pushed themselves to the limit. No one lasted more than 2 rounds against Kohler. Then it was Harry versus Shaw. The crowd chanted Harry's name. After all, he was a former amateur champion. Because of Shaw's earlier mistakes, Harry had endured countless punishments, and now he had a chance for payback. Shaw didn't attack first, so after a few probing exchanges, Harry thought Shaw was still as weak as before, and taunted him relentlessly. The crowd gasped. No one could have imagined that the guy who used to only take hits now needed just one punch to knock the so-called strongest contender to the floor. The count ended, and Shaw advanced to the semi-finals. This made Kohler's fists itch with anticipation. That night, Kohler called all the male cadets for training, and deliberately quizzed Shaw on theory. Everyone expected to suffer again, but to their surprise, Shaw answered every question perfectly. During this time, he hadn't just focused on physical training. He'd also stayed up late studying theory, determined to become a qualified naval officer. In the semi-finals, Shaw defeated his opponents one after another, earning the right to face Kohler in the final. Before the championship match, Shaw went to his father, hoping he'd witness the final bout. But his father refused, citing work commitments. Since his mother's passing, communication between him and his father had broken down. Watching Shaw walk away, his father seemed to realize something. Meanwhile, the final fitness test of the semester arrived. Kohler demanded completion in under 5 minutes, but Lyle's time was 5 minutes and 4 seconds, meaning he'd be expelled. Shaw pleaded for another chance for Lyle, but Kohler ignored him. No one could accept that a mere 4 seconds would destroy their future and dreams. Lyle was the pride of his entire hometown, but now he sank into deep self-doubt. His greatest fear was letting everyone down. Shaw tried to comfort him, but Lyle couldn't accept it, and pushed Shaw away. The weight became unbearable, constantly reminding him he was a failure. In the end, Lyle chose to end his life by jumping from a height. By the time Shaw reached him, he was barely breathing. When Shaw saw Kohler in the crowd, he couldn't control his rage and lunged at him. Others pulled them apart just in time, but even so, assaulting a superior had been witnessed by everyone. Perhaps he should have listened to his father from the start. Shaw decided to drop out before the disciplinary committee could rule, but unexpectedly, Kohler negotiated more time for him, postponing the hearing until after the final match. Kohler knew Shaw had prepared intensely for this fight. Both of them wanted a full-out battle. To their relief, Lyle woke up and had come to some realizations. He told Shaw, "In the boxing ring, you have 3 rounds to find yourself, but in life's arena, you only get 1 shot. Once you make a choice, there's no turning back." His words strengthened Shaw's resolve. The final match arrived as scheduled. The venue was packed with spectators, most there to see Shaw get knocked out, except for those who truly cared about him. It seemed like a hopelessly one-sided match, though Shaw barely met the weight requirement. Next to the powerful Kohler, he still looked like a lamb. As the starting bell rang, Shaw immediately got into stance, probing with careful attacks, but Kohler defended flawlessly while landing precise counters, each punch taking a toll on Shaw. Under immense pressure, Shaw soon lost his rhythm. Eager to attack, he forgot about defense, and gave Kohler openings to pummel him without mercy. After the first round, Shaw had been thoroughly dominated. Mary adjusted his strategy. Try to read his patterns. Don't just attack and defend mechanically. Draw him in close, and you'll have a chance to take control. But Shaw still couldn't calm his nerves. He swung desperately, anxious to score some points, only to give Kohler another opening. A heavy punch sent him crashing to the canvas. Everyone's heart leaped to their throats. That punch could have knocked out a bull, but with iron will, Shaw got back on his feet. By the end of the second round, both fighters were exhausted, nerves stretched taut. As the final round began, Shaw started to think strategically. He grew familiar with Kohler's rhythm, and they traded blows evenly. The pace quickened, leaving no room for error. A sharp right hook from Shaw drew gasps from the crowd. It was the first time Kohler had tasted real trouble. No one had ever made him look so vulnerable. Now it was about protecting honor and pride. With only 30 seconds left, Shaw fought fiercer than ever. He thought of the countless hours of sweat, Lyle's encouragement from the hospital bed, and all the mockery and frustration, transformed now into relentless strength. When the match ended, officers and fellow cadets alike stood and applauded the incredible fight they just witnessed. But on points, Shaw lost the match. Still, through his actions, he had earned everyone's respect and recognition. As he left the ring, Shaw saw his father. A quiet nod from him was silent affirmation. Though he didn't win the championship, he had gained something far more important. On the day of the disciplinary hearing, Shaw expected to be expelled and sent home, but the ruling allowed him to keep his place in the academy. It turned out Kohler had revised his testimony.
Sir, I want to thank you
For what?
for helping me with the review board.
It wasn't about you, Heward. That was about this academy.
Good luck out there.
The two had reached a kind of understanding. Each, driven by their own beliefs, continued striving toward their goals.